And here we go. Welcome to Irish Music Night for computer science people. I don't know. I guess Irish music's not really for computer science people. It's for everyone. So you might notice my last name is Irish. Kearney is an Irish last name. It's also not a family name. If you ever seen a lot of Irish names, they're like O's or Macs and things like that. O'Donoghue, O'Malley, McDonald, that kind of stuff. Kearney was actually a title. So there's a lot of Kearneys out there, and whether or not related, who knows. And Kearney's also spelled a number of different ways. C-A-R-N-E-Y, for example, was Jay Carney was the spokesperson for Obama. There was a Carney who was a kicker for the Chargers. There's Theo Kearney, who built the Kearney Mansion here in Fresno. No relation whatsoever, as far as I know. It's a shame, too. Try to claim he left it all to me. Get to move into the Kearney Mansion. That beautiful park down there. Padar Kearney was the guy who wrote the Irish national anthem. That's why I was trying to get the wallpaper engine. This is an Irish pub, but I just downloaded a wallpaper engine for the... it's supposed to play the Irish national anthem, but I have everything muted on here. So that's this background here. So that may or may not have been written by a relative of mine. Who knows? Like I said, Kearney is a title. So, all right. YouTube looks great. Excellent. There's a street name called Kearney in downtown Fresno. Yeah, that's actually named after a relative of mine. That one I do know. And so there's a town called Kearney in San Diego. There's Kearney Mesa in downtown San Francisco. There's a Kearney Street. It's named after my great uncle, Stephen Watts Kearney, who led the U.S. Army across the desert in the Mexican-American War. So, yeah, he is actually a relation. And there was a Kearney that was a general in the Civil War, Philip Kearney, who would have become the next General Army Potomac, except he died. He didn't trust his scouts, and so he went up ahead to look at the Confederates himself, and his men told him, "Get down." You can eat it, girl. It had quit out of Valheim, though. They told him, "Get down." He was like, "Oh, the Confederacy couldn't shoot an elephant from here because it's making noise, girl. It's bothering me." So, yeah. All right. So we're going to be talking about traditional Irish music today. And people think of different things, and they think of Irish music. For example, you might think of U2, yeah, or maybe Metallica doing covers of like Irish songs, Whiskey in the Jar, for example. You might think of Lord of the Dance, which is it's called step dancing or whatever, and it's sort of like Irish tap dancing kind of. And there is, I don't know, this kind of like Celtic fusion stuff. Or like this is at the Temple Bar, which is this very cheesy, touristy area of Dublin. And there's a lot of, I don't know, like rock music with Irish influences. I'm not really a big fan of it. What I'm a fan of is traditional Irish music. So I'm not talking about any of those on the previous slide. We're not going to be listening to Celtic fusion or Metallica's cover of Whiskey in the Jar. If we want to do Whiskey in the Jar, I'll just sing it myself, I guess. Here 50, here 45. Lave's doubling down on the extra credit. Yeah. As I was going over the far-famed Kerry Mountains, I met with Captain Farrell and his money he was counting. I first produced me pistol, and I then produced me rapier. Saying, "Stand and deliver, for you are a bold deceiver. Mashareen, manadoo, manadong. Walk for the daddy-o, walk for the daddy-o, there's whiskey in the jar." What do you think? Meow? I counted out his money, it made a pretty penny. I put it in me pocket and I took it home to Jenny. She sighed and she swore that she never would deceive me. But the devil take that woman, for they never can be easy. Mashareen, madadoo, madadong. Whack for the daddy-o, whack for the daddy-o, there's whiskey in the jar. I went into my chamber, all for to take a slumber. I dreamt of golden jewels, and for sure it was no wonder. But Jenny drew me charges, and she filled 'em up with water, and sent for Captain Farrell to be ready for the slaughter. Mashareen, madadoo, madadong. Whack for the daddy-o, whack for the daddy-o, there's whiskey in the jar. Sea shanties. It's not sea shanties. Come on. Sea shanty workshop. So there's a lot of great traditional music like that, and it's really fun to watch. Here's whiskey in the jar, right? It's a lot of fun to be in a pub, right? And Ireland has this culture that is amazing, where like you're in a bar and people will just start singing and playing music. And just like everyone knows the songs, and everyone just starts joining in, and it's something that's mind-boggling to me as an American, right? Because you're at, I don't know, the Yard House in River Park. You know, it's not like a bunch of people at a table will just start going like, "In Dublin's fair city, where the girls are so pretty, I first set my eyes on sweet Molly Malone, and she wheeled her wheelbarrow through streets broad and narrow, crying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh, alive, alive, oh, alive, alive, oh, crying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh." She was a fishmonger, for sure it was no wonder, for so were her mother and father before. And they both wheeled their barrows through streets broad and narrow, crying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh, alive, alive, oh, alive, alive, oh, crying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh. She died of a fever, and no one could save her, and that was the end of sweet Molly Malone. But her ghost pushes her barrow through streets broad and narrow, crying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh. Take it away, Ada. Alive, alive, oh, alive, alive, oh, crying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh.
Dad?
Huh?
I think it sounds like you forgot
A verse?
a pause between like when Molly Malone and the last verse.
Probably. It's fine.
And number 2, there's actually a book where Nessie in Ireland, like the Loch Ness monster, her favorite song was Molly Malone.
Yeah, okay. All right. Yeah, so there's a statue of Molly Malone. She's not a real person, but she represented real people. And so this is the statue of Molly Malone in Dublin. So she's one of Dublin's most famous people who never lived, but, you know, why let a good story stop you? And so, Ada, what do you think of the statue there of Molly Malone? Yeah?
Why isn't her wheelbarrow filled with... Why is it a cart, and why isn't it a wheelbarrow like in the song?
It's a wheelbarrow. Yeah, she's wheeling it around, and her
baskets.
baskets.
That does not look like a wheelbarrow.
Well, it's how they had wheelbarrows back then. And so they'd go to the Sandy Mount in the bay near Dublin, and they'd pick cockles and mussels and put them in the baskets and walk around town, and they would sell them. And so my daughter, last time I showed this to her, was like, put on more clothing, because she's showing quite a lot of bosom. And so the people in Dublin call it the tart with the cart. And you can notice the patina is polished off in certain areas on the statue.
And just to be funny, some people actually put a mask on her.
That's right, they put the COVID mask on her. Yeah. So I would love to see this in person. Just go to a pub and join in on some singing. Yeah, it's a cool experience. It's a really cool experience. And they'll sometimes tell stories, sometimes tell jokes. But a lot of it is people, they'll just bring their musical instruments to a pub. And that's like, what? Like, in America, like if you want to learn the violin, you're going to learn for classical orchestra, right? And so if you're a classically trained violinist, you're not going to bring your $10,000 violin to a pub where people are drinking and spilling beer everywhere and getting rowdy. And just go like, hey, by the way, Four Seasons, here it comes, and you just launch into it. And then somebody at the table over is like, oh, I know the Four Seasons, and they just start playing the drums, and another guy's like, oh, I've got a bagpipe with me. Boom, bagpipe Four Seasons, and people just join in. And it's a really cool thing, and it just doesn't happen in America, and it's mind-blowing. Mm-hmm. It is really, really cool. Okay, so traditional music is, yeah?
It's only mind-blowing to us because we never do it.
It's mind-blowing to me as an American, yeah, because, like I said, at the art house, I've literally never seen somebody launch into a song and just have everyone like, oh, I know that one. You know?
Because...
Can you imagine? You start singing the national anthem, and everyone just, like, starts joining in, you know?
In manners like that is not acceptable.
Yeah, it's not acceptable here, but in Ireland, it's normal. Pubs in Ireland are called Ireland's living room. Like, you'll have kids in there, right? And here we're like, oh, you can't have a kid, and they're under 21. It'll corrupt their morals. And in Ireland, you have a kid playing underneath the table while the mom's, like, playing some drums and the dad's playing the tin whistle, you know? Sounds like a coincidence from a cartoon, except it's not, right? Because that's the culture, right? And some pubs every night is a session night where people can come. Sometimes it's like on Fridays at 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock there's a session. And so the owner of the pub kind of controls when there could be music in there, because if they didn't, there would be people in there playing music all the time. And musicians are rather famously poor, and they don't buy as much music. But if you know there's a specific time where there's a session night, then people will come in to listen to the music, right? And so, like, people will come, like, oh, there's a session at 7 o'clock. And then they come in and they buy drinks and listen to the musicians that are poor, you know, making the music. Okay. So the repertoire of session music is from mostly the 1800s. It's kind of like sea shanties, right? Sea shanties, we think of sea shanties as pirate songs. There's songs about pirates, but there's, like, no pirate songs, really. There's a couple. High Barbary, I guess, maybe. It's about piracy.
I'm sure sea shanties were only... I'm sure there were no sea shanties created in the time of the pirates.
Pretty sure they probably had them. They just weren't recorded. Because you have to yank on the ropes together. Anyway.
Pirates don't like them.
Does this sort of thing happen in other countries? Just Ireland. Yeah, it's just an Irish thing, as far as I can tell. If somebody's from, like, I don't know, Hungary and it's a thing there, let me know. I had a person who was into Hungarian folk music, but as far as I know, they would, like, go to events. You know, you'd go to a Hungarian folk music event, and there'd be professional musicians and things like that. A session, it's like if your neighborhood pub has a session and you can play the guitar, you just wander in with your guitar and just sit there and, you know, it's sometimes more official than that, you know, but a lot of times you just wander into your pub and play music with people, and it's just a cool thing. It's just a really cool thing. So there are some modern tunes. Bonnabon Chapel was written probably around 1950 or so, something like that. But it's a traditional tune somehow. I don't know. I'm not sure how that happened. But it's a modern tune that's a traditional tune also, because it's written in the style of earlier music. Even though the composer of it tends to use more of the violin than trad songs normally do. Traditional songs are actually really easy to play, and that's one of the things that I liked about them. It's kind of like when I started learning to play the guitar here. I liked those guitar songs where you can kind of fake your way through it. You just make one shape on your hand and kind of go up and go down, and look, I'm making punk rock. Look, this is amazing. You know, just cheating your way through the song. Trad songs, by default, there's no shifting. You play most traditional Irish fiddle tunes can be played in first position only. So you don't have to shift. And that's a hard thing when you're playing a violin, is the shifting. You shift from first to seventh to third to fifth to first, and there's no frets on a violin, right? So you have to hit it perfectly every time as you shift up and down. And trad music is typically just like this. Your left hand's not moving, just your fingers are, you know, usually. But like Bonnabon Chapel and other tunes written by that guy tend to have a wider range of notes. So, yeah, and so one of the unique things is about Ireland is that the folk tradition was preserved, and it was preserved in County Clare, perhaps more than in other counties, because folk music is very popular in rural areas, right? Like if you think about today, square dance and things like that. Like square dance is big, and like if you go up into like mountain communities, like they'll have square dances and things like that. And so Ireland, first of all, was bypassed by World War II, right? World War One. Well, that was a whole story. Like Ireland during World War One, there's the Easter Rising and all this other stuff. But in World War II, they were neutral, right? And so this devastation of the countryside of most of Europe didn't affect, Ireland at all. It's good employment. A lot of Irishmen went to England to work, But yeah, so it sort of didn't get eradicated by these massive changes in the European landscape. And there were areas in rural areas, because Ireland was very poor. And to a certain extent, it still is kind of a poor country. But the high-tech industry there's what's called the Irish, was it the Irish tiger, the Celtic tiger, or something like that, which is about the economic boom of Ireland. And like Skype is from Ireland and things like that. And so Ireland's doing better now. Dublin is a very modern city, for example. But if you go into the countryside, like it's still pretty rural and pretty poor, and the trad music is still popular there. You'll just have people over. You'll just have people over for a Ceilidh, is what they call them. And you play music and tell stories and sing songs and talk about the olden days and make jokes and dance and all this kind of stuff. And it's very popular, And so what happened was, well, before I get more into the history, let's talk about the instruments. So the fiddle is what I play. I also play the big fiddle. I play the viola as well as the violin. And it's a traditional tunes. Pretty easy to play at a basic level. They're hard to play at a good level. But at a basic level, just hitting the notes, pretty easy to pick up. And so you'd have people like on sailing ships, to go back to our sea shanty talk from a couple of weeks ago, there would usually be a fiddler on the ship. And the fiddler would play oftentimes Irish music. And he would do that to entertain the crew. And you didn't have to be like a classically trained musician that played in the Vienna orchestra. First position, man, you can learn that pretty easy. Violin is not an easy instrument to play. But if you're just stuck in first position your whole life, like, it's not too bad. It's only, 20 notes you have to learn. I don't know, something like that. And Irish music's in a pentatonic scale, so you can kind of play any of the notes in the scale, and they all sound good. So even if you misplay something, like, it'll still sound good. Look, I'm improvising. Yeah. So there's a lot of different kinds of wind instruments. There's the tin whistle, penny whistle, the fife, the flute, the hornpipe. Hornpipe's actually made out of a horn. It's kind of cool. And there's a variety of those things. I have a tin whistle around here somewhere. I'm terrible at it. I'm not going to play it for you. I'm also not going to play the violin for you. I haven't picked it up in a while, so I'm not going to subject you to that. The bodhrán is the drum that you see here, and it's sort of the Irish drum. It's actually probably not that old. Like, we know people were playing it in like the mid 1800s. Prior to that, I don't know. There are, in the histories, people playing drums that are constructed like this, but probably not very prominent. So it's more of a modern, traditional instrument. There are the spoons and the bones. I know the last time Lave... I do have spoons. Hey, Ada, can you find the spoons, girl? Ada? Okay. Thank you. So spoons are an instrument. They're literally two spoons, and you will duct tape them together. And you just tap them together, and you tap out a rhythm. It's a percussive instrument. Professional spoons. I do have professional spoons, yes. I did not duct tape spoons together. My wife would not have appreciated that. So when I was in Dublin, which is the trad music capital of the world, I bought some spoons there, just as a souvenir. Bones, or you can clack bones together, and there's, all these cool like rhythms they'll tap out and stuff like that on the bones. The uilleann pipes are the elbow pipes. They're Irish bagpipes.
I don't know why I agreed to find it, but I don't know where.
You don't know where they are? Try checking on the fireplace. That's where I keep spoons.
Okay.
So, yeah, the Irish pipes, they're not bagpipes. They're like these giant pipes that the Scots have. They kind of tuck under the elbows. So they're called elbow pipes, and they are kind of like bagpipes, I guess. Which one's my favorite? The fiddle. Hands down. Hands down. I love violin music.
No.
Can find it? All right, no worries. You can see back there, I'm trying to learn the guitar, although it's on pause right now because I'm learning Japanese and my brain can only handle so much at a time. I actually don't like the guitar very much in Irish music. It sounds too modern to me. The banjo, the mandolin, the bouzouki are actually modern instruments as well. The bouzouki's from Greece, you know. So they're plucked, you know, instruments, kind of similar to the guitar, I guess. But they sound really good, so I don't know. I don't know why I'm discriminating against guitars, but I like the sound of banjo music and mandolin music and bouzouki music in trad sessions. Guitar, I mean, there's always going to be a guy with a guitar, because everyone knows how to play the guitar, you know. Like, you'll go to a trad session, there's two guys with guitars, and they're just, like, strumming along, playing accompaniment. Yeah, it's what it is. It is what it is. Now do attendance. Okay. How do I do attendance? Workshop?
No, you just had no, you just have to call the workshop command first before it enables the here command. So everybody who used here, that did nothing. So now everybody do the here for your class.
Okay. So anybody who left already is hosed. That's fine by me. All right. So the accordion concertina kind of sound like, you know, they're squeeze boxes, right? You squeeze them together, you know, and they have keys on them, so you can play different notes and stuff like that. Go get it. Okay. All right, and then you have the traditional Irish harp, and that I have never seen live at a session. I've seen recordings of people at sessions playing the harp. I've never personally seen a harp at a session. No, I take it back. I have. And I've seen dulcimers too, which are kind of like harps, but different. My aunt actually played a dulcimer. I don't know if you guys know what a dulcimer is. What most people think of a dulcimer is like a xylophone with strings, kind of like a hammered instrument, like this. It's a hammered dulcimer. But what my aunt played was this, a lap dulcimer, and it's another instrument in the guitar family, I guess. And I've seen dulcimers at sessions too. What's interesting is that the banjo and the dulcimer are American traditional music, right? And American traditional music derived from Irish and Scottish music. So especially in the South, there was a lot of Scottish people that came from Scotland into like South Carolina and Appalachia, because the Highlands, right? You know, and so the traditional Appalachian music, old time music we call it here in America, derived from Celtic influences. And then they developed the dulcimer and the banjo, and then those were brought back into Ireland and are somewhat popular there. Banjo especially. Okay, so this is about session music, really. Okay. And so the you can see here, this is in Dublin. I took this photo myself. I was wandering around Dublin like, where are the sessions at? You know? We're gonna find a session. Because that's what I was there for. I was like, I'm gonna spend a week in Ireland and I'm just gonna go to a pub every night and listen to session music because I love playing it. I love listening to it. I just left my wife and kid at home. I'm like, sorry, bye. You know, I'm just going to go to Ireland. This is a couple of years ago, and I'm just going to just listen to session music every night and have a good time. And I'm also going to see the sights and go hiking and stuff like that. But mostly I was there for the pub music and that pub culture and talking to Irish people, which is always fun. Irish people are some of the most welcoming people in the world. Like, basically, if you just sit down at a table and you just, like, look around, like, anyone want to talk to me? Like, somebody will, like, wander over and start up a conversation with you. Like, at this place where I took this photo, it was 6 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning. I had horrible jet lag, you know, flying to Europe. And so I went to sleep at, like, 3 in the afternoon and woke up at like 5, and went to the first. I was on Yelp trying to find the first breakfast place open to get a traditional Irish breakfast. So I go in there, and there's just like 2 bleary-eyed waitresses, and they're just like talking. I'm eating, and they wander over to me. They're like, "All right, hey, how's the meal?" I'm like, "Good." They're like, "So, what are you looking for in a woman?" Like, where did that come from? Like, have we met before? And she's like, "Oh, no, I have a boyfriend. It's not like that. But I'm trying to figure out, like, is he into me? And she's like, I've literally never met this woman before in my life, and she's like, all right, here's how he's acting towards me. Could you help me decipher it? And that was just kind of her opener to start a conversation with me. And so then, I just start talking to her, and her friend chimes in, and the 3 of us, because there's literally nobody else in this place. It's just crack of dawn, and it's just I'm not hungover, but I feel like it because it's just like jet lag, and I'm just having a great time, and that's just, over and over again. Every time I've been to Ireland, just somebody will just like wander up to you and be like, "Yeah, are you from America?" And then they'll just think of something to say, and you just have a conversation about it, And does everyone in Ireland speak Irish? You mean Gaelic? Very few people speak only Gaelic now. There's parts of Ireland called the Gaeltacht, which are areas where native speakers speak Gaelic and they communicate in Gaelic, and good luck trying to speak English. The young kids will know English, the old people will not. And I did go to a Gaeltacht area, and it was brutal. Just like this guy's like, and I'm like, I don't know what you're saying, and he's like, come over here, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then like this guy comes up, he's like, do you need a ride? I'm like, yeah. And so I go with him, and the old man starts yelling at him because apparently I agreed to hire him, and it's like, and the 2 of them start talking to each other loudly in Gaelic, and the guys and the kid's like, it's all right, I worked it out, You want somebody that speaks English anyway, right? I'm like, yeah, please. Come with me. And then, he was a carriage ride, right? It's going around an island, and he just tells me his life story. He's lived in Dublin for 20 years doing IT. Then he just got tired of the big city and moved back to this island off the coast. This island off the coast of Ireland that, there's 300 people that live there, and just loves it. And it tells me the story of the island and how they broke the rocks and put down kelp to turn the whole island was just a rock, and they broke it meter by meter. They broke the rocks, stacked all the rocks up into fences, and put down kelp and sand and dirt, and slowly turned the island over 800 years into something that could cultivate life. And I'm just like, damn, that's way more hardcore than me. I would have just left. I would have, because like the mainland's like right there. I'd have gone over there. And he's like, yeah, but over there people are fighting each other. Here, we got a castle, we were only invaded, a couple times over the centuries. Oh, okay. That's pretty good for Ireland. The Irish fought the Irish a lot. It was very common. Cattle raids especially were very common. Clan versus clan. This family would raid that family, and they would raid back, and it was, there's a lot of castles in Ireland. There's a lot of castles in Ireland. This one guy said, just throw a rock, you'll hit a castle or a wall or a fortification. You're gonna hit it. You just, oh, yep, that's an old ruin. Yeah. So Ireland is MMO raids everywhere. Yeah, it's PvP, 100%. It is a PvP server to be living in Ireland back in the day. And so the rich people would live in these like really cramped stone towers that had no windows because you could sleep at night without dying. So. All right. So the session. So anyway, coming back. Did my video cut out? There we go. So to come back, this is an example of traditional Irish music sessions that are scheduled. So at this pub, O'Neill's, the O'Neills, by the way, used to be the kings of Ireland. The O'Neill's bar and restaurant has scheduled session musics every night at 9:30 or 10 or 9. 7 nights a week they have dance shows that are free. And yeah. And so basically, as a tourist, I'm like, snip. Like, I took a photograph of that so that I could, like, I was walking around, I was talking to these two Irish waitresses, like, where's good places for Irish music, you know? And they're like, what kind of Irish music, you know? Are you looking for U2 stuff, Celtic fusion, Riverdance? I'm like, no, like session music, like, you know. And they're, and they like wrote down a bunch of things for me. And like I said, that's just how it is. You know, when I was on the train in Ireland, Irish trains, like you think it's like Ireland's a European country, they have trains everywhere. No. Ireland has a very, very limited train network. It's like this. It's like Ireland does not have very much in the way of trains.
It looks like what?
It looks like this. It's just like there's, I think, Dublin to Galway and Dublin to Kilkenny and maybe one or two others. Like, it's not... Inside of Dublin, there's a good metro system, and the trains are not bad. Like, they're actually pretty... they're pretty nice trains. But, like, on the train, I would have my laptop out. And, okay, so they got some. Let's see here. Except those are probably bus routes, if I remember right. Yeah, so Dublin to Galway, Dublin to Tralee. This doesn't look correct to me. There you go. Yeah. Dublin to Galway, Dublin to Killarney. Sorry, not Kilkenny. Kilkenny's over here. And so, yeah, it looks like this. And so basically from Dublin, you go up to Belfast, down to Wexford, to Cork, but like they all kind of like just connect to Dublin. So like if you wanted to go from Galway to Ennis and then down to Killarney, there's no rail network unless you want to go all the way back to Dublin and then all the way back out. So you take buses. And the reason why I mentioned this is like if you want to just talk to Irish people, put your laptop away. When I had my laptop out, they're all like, oh, he's working, I'm not going to bother him. So I'm going to put my laptop down, the woman across from me looks at me like, so, where are you from? You know, there's this old Irish guy, there's this old Irish woman, she was an old school teacher, and he was an old school teacher also, actually. No. He said, when I was a boy, school teachers used to punish me. Are you going to punish me? And I was like, oh, damn. And this, like, 85-year-old guy just, like, straight up hits on this, like, 70-something-year-old woman while we're having a conversation. He's just, like, actively trying to seduce her, like, you know, and she's just like very politely rebuffing him the whole time, you know, and I was just like, oh damn, this is interesting, you know, and I was like, what's going on here? I don't know, but it's kind of funny. And yeah, so yeah, just put down your thing and just people will talk to you. It's a really cool thing. So this is scheduled Irish music, scheduled sessions rather. Sometimes just pick up. So sometimes you just walk into the bar with the music and play. It really kind of just depends on the pub if they allow it or not. And sometimes the sessions have a sort of owner of the session. Like in Dublin, one of the musicians, I went over to this guy's house. He has a for-profit business of being a cool Irish musician. It's called the Dublin Music House. And so basically you just go over to his house. It's literally his house, and his wife pours you wine and crackers. Christy Berry, that's his name. He's a cool dude. He's a really cool dude. And yeah, it's literally just his house. And his wife sells art too. She's an artist. But basically every time you go there, he just tells different stories about the old times. And he has his buddy who plays the flute. He plays the flute. His buddy plays the fiddle. And you just kind of hang out at his house. It's a cool thing.
Onto it, you're drawn into it, you know.
Yeah, anyway. And so he owns two of the sessions.
How old is the man who was hitting a woman?
He wasn't hitting her. He was hitting on her. It means he was trying to date her. Okay. And so I think it was like Tuesday nights. So when he found out that I played the viola for traditional music, he's like, oh, I've never heard of viola used in trad music before. Did you bring it? And I'm like, no, sorry. He's like, it's a shame. Well, anyhow, are you going to be here on Tuesday? Because I run the session on Tuesday night, and we can probably find a fiddle for you, and you can play with us. I'm like, I'm leaving on Monday night. It's like, dang it. Yeah, but the point is like, he's the guy that runs the Tuesday night session, right? If I'm remembering the day right, it doesn't really matter. And so like he kind of controls who gets to play there and who doesn't get to play there. So sometimes it's kind of like hierarchical and kind of organized. A lot of the times though it's just pickup, right? You just sit down and there's just people and you just play, and who chooses the tune? Some person. Whoever starts playing it chooses the tune. And the way that it works is this. So like, let's say I'm going to play a tune. Let's say I want to play Bonnabon. Famous tune. It's about it's a tune and it's a song. And a lot of them are that way. A tune is music and just music. And a song you sing. You sing a song, right? Don't listen to iTunes. iTunes says buy a song and it's a tune. It's not a song. Song, you have to sing a song. There's no singing on a lot of... Anyway. So let's say I start playing Bonnabon. All the other people that are going to be interested in playing music will listen. They'll go like this. Like, oh, it's Bonnabon. Okay. And then they'll start joining in. And so you play through Bonnabon 3 times. The first time they go like this. Okay. And then, they might do a couple drones. And then when you do the repeat, then they join in with you. And everyone plays together. And it's just really cool hearing all these different harmonies coming in. Because even though all of them know the tune, they will improvise on top of the tune. They don't improvise a tune. They improvise on top of the tune. And there's kind of a rule in Irish music that you never play the music the same way. Right? So if I'm going to play Bonnabon, I'm going to play it through 3 times. And Bonnabon has an A part and a B part. And so I go A part, A part, B part, B part, A part, A part, B part, B part, A part, A part, B part, B part. That's a lot of repetition. It gets very boring. If you were probably bored just from having me say A and B so many times. And so I'm playing it, and every time I play through it, I'm going to play it a little bit differently. Or I might exaggerate a note, or I might put accents on it, and I'll talk about that in a bit. And the other people are doing the same thing. So every live performance is different, and it's exciting. And you're like listening, and sometimes the guy leading it will like do a dramatic pause, and everyone like stops and looks at him, and then he keeps going, and everyone joins in again, and then somebody in the audience will like, woo, and they'll like get in, and people will be stomping their feet, and it's a really cool experience. It's just really, really neat. And then usually the person leading the song will play through Bonnabon 3 times, and then play a different song, and again, people listen, okay, and they join in, and then he plays another song, people listen, join in 3 times through, then leadership passes to the next person. Then the next person will be like, all right, I'm going to do Silver Spear and the Banshee and the White Petticoat Jig. But they don't say it. They don't say it. They just start playing it. And everyone listens and goes, oh, that's the White Petticoat. And they join in. And if you think that's hard to learn, the answer is yes. Because in order to go to a session, you have to know the music already well enough to play and improvise at least 100 tunes to be at, the level where you're not going to be embarrassed, just being at a session, right? And so I tried joining a session once, and I was basically told politely I didn't know enough music. And I'm like, what song should I learn? They're like, go to thesession.com, sort by top popularity, memorize the top 100 songs. I was like, could we start with like, I don't know, 3 or 4? So I never went back to them. Yeah. I mean, they knew what they were doing, and I didn't. But it's like, how are you going to get new people in? They were all old farts. That they were in their own like kind of clique, and I was kind of like, it's an open session, So I brought Guinness for people, and they're like, oh, sorry, we don't drink, and I'm like, oh, that's awkward, But yeah, like that's just how the sessions go. But if you don't, let's say you're like me and you don't know the songs, and this guy Chris T. Berry, he invited me. He was like, come. If you're here on Tuesday, come, and we'll include you in it. And it'll be fun, because I kind of told him about these people. I was like, don't worry about it. All skill levels, they're all welcome. Come in, whatever songs you can play them, and we'll join in with you. And I didn't have the ability to do that because I left. But when I went into the pub that night, another person was leading it. The guy was looking around, and he's like, hey, you in the audience there, you've got a tin whistle. And the guy's like, yeah. He's like, why aren't you playing with us? He's like, I didn't know I could. He's like, where are you from? I'm from Manhattan. People in Manhattan play the tin whistle? Yeah, I guess there's a lot of Irish people there. come on over here, come on over here. And they pull the guy over, and they're like, what songs do you know? He's like, I only know a few. Do you know Pigeon on the Gate? Ah, of course we know Pigeon on the Gate. And so the guy starts playing it, and then all the people listening go, okay. And they all join in. And so this guy, you could tell he wasn't even like that good at the tin whistle, but he just kind of brought it with him because he just had it in his pocket, and he's just in case. And the guy like, oh, come over here. And so the guy plays like a set of 3 songs, and everyone's like clapping, and all the support musicians are supporting him, and he sounds just amazing. Even though you could tell like he was just kind of like a little awkward at it and stuff like that. And afterwards, the guy just was like, wow, that was such a great time. That was so cool. Thank you so much. And I was like, that is really neat. And so after that happened, I went up to the guy running the session. I'm like, I will buy a round of drinks for everybody that just did that, because that was a really cool thing you did for them. And, offering free drinks to musicians, they were like, we like you. Awesome. And so some of them, don't drink booze. They just ordered water or whatever. But I'm like, all right, 2 ciders, 2 Guinnesses, and I took the order, brought it back. And the guy's like, all right, do you have an instrument? I'm like, nah, sorry, I left it in America. I was backpacking over large parts of Ireland. I didn't want to carry an instrument, a violin with me, right? He's like, that's fine. Well, what's your favorite tune? We'll play it for you. I'm like, oh, cool. Paddy Ryan's Dream. It's like, Paddy Ryan's Dream. I haven't played that one in a while. And so they all sit down and they all toast me, and they all drink, and I drink with them, and they play Paddy Ryan's Dream. And this is in a crowded bar. It's like probably maybe the most famous bar for trad music in all of Ireland. And it was just very welcoming. It's just a cool experience, It's just super neat. It's fun watching Kearney at 1 frame per 3 seconds. All right, I'll turn down the resolution. Here we go. 30 frames a second and 1080p. There you go. How about that? All right. All right. How about that? Is that better? All right. So I'm streaming on both YouTube and on Discord right now, which might have something to do with it. But you heard the story, right? Like it's just a cool thing. All right. So I was up till 7 o'clock in the morning putting this talk together because I kept thinking of more songs that I liked and more tunes that I liked, and I just started adding more and more. And Manhand Dude got roped in. Yeah, in fact, I actually, do you want to listen to him? I actually recorded it because I thought it was really cool. Civil War reenactment. Okay, that looks like Ireland. That's definitely Ireland. Okay, I'm in the right section of 2017. It's me in a horse-drawn carriage. This is in the Gap of Dunlow. It's outside of Killarney. It's a beautiful area. It's one of the areas where I was going to be hiking it, but it was raining hard. And so I was like, yeah, I'm going to hire the cheesy horse-drawn carriage because the dude's got an umbrella and a blanket. You probably see, yeah, all the rain coming down there. Ireland is a green country, by the way. It rains a lot in Ireland. It rains a lot. It rains like sometimes every day, right? And so just, this is Ross Castle. Just beautiful because everything's green. It's so weird coming from California because like California, everything's dead, So that's off the cliffs of Moher, which you might have seen before. Where is the session? There we go. There we go. So that's the guy. I think. That's the guy at least. Oh, this is a road to Lisbon to Inverna. That's funny. Let me switch the screen over so you can hear it. Change windows over to the MP4. There we go. All right, so this tune is called "The Road to Lisbon. Lisbon is a town actually near Dublin. They used to have a music festival there every year. They still have a matchmaking festival every year where if you're single, you can go there and find a nice Irish lass or laddie to marry. True story. I was there briefly. And so the tune, The Road to Lisbon, is very catchy, very easy to learn. It's half the length of a normal Irish song, so you can memorize it very quickly. And so go ahead and hit play, Crenny Son. Let's give me a second. So you see how the violinist in the background came in. Let me rewind a little bit. So you got a guitar just playing a little bit of accompaniment. You got a banjo probably playing a little bit of accompaniment. It's got the keyboard. There's not a lot of keyboards at a lot of places I've seen, but this, like I said, this is actually probably the #1 trad music pub in Ireland. So they have a dedicated pit for Irish music. And so there you see the violinist in the background drank her drink, grabs her violin, starts playing a drone. So she's just droning a note. This guy's recording too. He took a picture. That was his phone. So he took a picture of him so that he could have a memory of him playing at Gus O'Connor's pub in Dublin. You know. So now she's actually playing notes. So he just finished The Road to Lisbon, Barna. On YouTube, that is coming out super loud above my audio. Okay. No hurdy-gurdy, yeah. What bass range instruments are usually used? Sometimes you'll see people on a double bass. Yeah. Yeah. And now he just finished the first tune, so now he's going into the second tune of his set. He's messing up occasionally. Yep. So that is that's what a live session looks like, and yeah, it's pretty cool. Travel guide, Ireland. Yeah, just all of Ireland. Like over here, you can actually see the Burren, which is a rocky karst landscape. You can see that some cows here, but like most of Ireland, just looks like this. It is just green because it rains so much there. And like I was just like walking around, just like taking photos of like how green everything was, and like these farmers are like, "Why are you taking photos of my field?" I'm like, "It's so green," and they're like, "Yeah, it is." I'm like, "It's you don't understand. Like in America, like in California, you know how much money it would cost to make everything that green? It's like a lot of money." Like the mountains are green. Nobody's got money to make mountains green in America. You know? Oh, this is from the bus. Actually, this is the bus ride. Yeah. See, random castle ruins. Just driving on the bus. Just random castles, random greenery. Random Castle over there. Random Castle. Lisbon Barna. Yeah, there you go. So I'm gonna be like a travel guide for Ireland. So here's the musician I was telling you about. Yeah. All right, so California is called the Golden State because everything's yellow and dead. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna play. Let me lecture a little bit more. I just played some music. So there's the guy. So this was Gus O'Connor's. So Gus O'Connor's pub is actually kind of special, and I actually went to Dublin specifically for that pub because trad music was a deliberate, unlike in a lot of other countries in Europe where traditional music was just replaced over time with modern music. In Ireland, there was actually a push for traditional music being played for events with kids. There's these things called fleads where kids compete in Irish music and things like that, because Ireland had been under the thumb of the English for 800 years, right? And so, something vibrating. It's not my phone, I don't think. And so they came up with the theory that people that have their own culture will get their own country. And so rather than, they still speak English, obviously, but they started promoting Gaelic. And so a lot of people take Gaelic classes, even though they're not like native Gaelic speakers in the Gaeltacht, they will take Gaelic lessons. And so in Radio Ireland and all these things, they'll have Gaelic programs and things like that in order to promote a separate cultural identity from British culture. And part of that, they promoted hurling, which was a sport that had kind of fallen out of popularity. And so they brought back traditional Irish field hockey, and they brought back Irish music. And so a big part of the Irish history in the mid-1800s was about developing a separate cultural identity from England. And it succeeded. Like the Irish rebelled in 1916 in the Easter Rising, and then by around 1920, 1923, the Parliament voted to allow Ireland a certain degree of independence, and then by about 1930, the Irish were independent, and so trad music was kind of dying out at that point. And so in places like Dublin, people are listening to jazz and all the cool stuff, but in the rural parts, especially in County Clare, there people were preserving the old ways, the drop of the pure, they call it. Having still dances in the old style and music in the old style. And Christy Berry, that guy that I talked to, he was alive back then. And as a kid, he would sneak out after bedtime and hide under the table and watch people dancing, and all you could see are their feet moving and things like that. Because Irish dancing, you kind of stand like this, your arms don't move, but you kind of move your feet. And one of my students last year, she was big into Irish dancing. Her name was Hannah Anderson, I think. And she told me it's because when the English would look in, they prohibited Irish culture, so they'd look in through the window and they would just see people standing like this, and so they wouldn't know they were dancing because Irish dancing was forbidden. I don't know if it's true or not, but who cares? It's a good story. So, what's your favorite Irish food? Irish breakfasts are really good. I really like Irish a full breakfast. That's a meal. That's a meal and a half right there. It's got rashers and cooked tomato and 2 different puddings and like savory puddings. It's a full meal. It's a full meal. Yeah. So there's this guy Gus O'Connor and his wife who they just liked trad music, and so all across Ireland at the time, people were still going to pubs and playing music with their friends, but the bartenders were kind of shooing them out, like, get out of here, you bums, get out of here. You're not buying any beer. You're taking up space in the bar that could be used for paying customers. Get out of here. And so there was this movement of like eliminating the session. Like it very well could have disappeared. But Gus O'Connor was like, hey, come over here and we'll record you. And they actually put together a series broadcasting, what trad music sounds like, that kind of caught on. And several of the local County Clare people like Michio became famous. And so trad musicians came from all over Ireland to Gus O'Connor's pub, that place that I just showed you, to play trad music, and so they have trad music schools there now where you can go. Like if you want to learn, you can send your kids there, and so he sort of preserved it, and like I said, they did cultural preservation, like recording the tunes and trying to build, because it was like sea shanties. Sea shanties would have vanished if Stan Huygens hadn't preserved them, right? Because the old ways were vanishing and people weren't singing them anymore. And so Stan took the effort to record and write down and record and the lyrics and all that stuff, the old sea shanties, although he did clean them up a little bit. And so then some of these musicians that Gus O'Connor recorded made it big. And so Michio traveled to America, was on TV shows there. And then you had the folk revival in America in the 60s, right? You had Peter, Paul, and Mary, and Steel Eye Span, and the O'Clancy, the Clancy brothers, and the Chieftains, and of course the Dubliners. The Dubliners are the biggest traditional Irish group that hit it really big in the 1960s. They traveled the world playing traditional session songs around the world. And after the 1960s, everyone's like, oh, damn, this Irish music's really good. The session music's really good. Where can I go to see it? And so all the pub owners are like, oh, come back. We'll do a session here every Sunday night. Come in with your friends, bring your friends. And then tourists would come in and be like, oh, look, it's traditional music. And they would buy beers and things like that. And so now everywhere you go in Ireland, you're just like, hey, where can I go to hear a session tonight? And they'll let you know. You can find one. And then you go there and you buy your beer and you listen to the music, and everyone's happy. The bartenders typically love the music, and the people love the music, and yeah, it's a good time. The essay is due on Monday. If you can't make this lecture, the essay is due on Monday. So, and so basically, people like me that love trad music, I'm like, I'm going to Dublin. That's the place I'm going to go. I go to the motherland, and see what it's like. I also went to O'Donoghue's pub in Dublin, and so there was a really good session there that I listened to for hours. I was there for a while, and I'm sitting there, and this guy would put down his whistle, and he would sing a song, Back Home in Derry, which I'd never heard before, and it's a beautiful, lovely song. It was actually written by Bobby Sands, who was an Irish member of Parliament that was imprisoned by the British, and actually he became a member of Parliament after he was in prison. The Irish voted him into Parliament after he was a prisoner, under the premise, I guess, that you can't imprison members of Parliament, but they didn't let him out. And so Bobby Sands went on hunger strike to protest the treatment of Irish prisoners by the British, and died in prison. And before he died, he wrote the song Back Home in Derry and gave it to his cellmate to smuggle out, basically. And the cellmate took the poem, basically. It wasn't a song, it was just a poem, and gave it to Christy Moore, not Christy Berry, a different Christy, musician, Irish musician. Christy Moore, who wrote the song Ride On, See You, Couldn't Let You Go Even Though I Wanted to. And he set it to the music of Gordon Lightfoot's Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. And so this guy here sang Back Home in Derry, and I never heard it before. I'm like, I have my cell phone open. I'm just like writing down the lyrics so I can look it up later, stuff like that. Did their beer taste different? Yeah, everyone says that Guinness tastes much better in Ireland. And I don't necessarily disagree. Like, I don't know how it can taste better, but it does. Right? And so if you go into an Irish bar and you just order a pint, it's going to be Guinness. Could I have a pint? Here you go. And every pub in Ireland, sells Guinness. And it's a matter of pride to have a good pint, You have to pour it and you let it settle. You put a head on it. Like, there's a specific technique for pouring a Guinness. You can see that's probably Guinness there, and these are, I don't know, Smithwicks or something. I don't know. Must be great beer. I like it. It's I don't like pilsners and things like that. I like stouts and porters and dark beers. So yeah, Guinness is good. Yeah, so Back Home in Derry was a hauntingly beautiful song. In 1803 we sailed out to sea, out from the sweet town of Derry, for Australia bound if we didn't all drown, and the marks of our fetters we carried. and rusty iron chains we cried for our wains. Our good women we left in sorrow. As the mainsails unfurled, the curses we hurled had the English and thoughts of tomorrow. Oh, 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 I wish I was back home in Derry. Oh, 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 I wish I was back home in Derry. The mouth of the foil bid farewell to the soil, as down below decks we were lying. Old Dougherty screamed, woken out from a dream by a vision of bold Robert dying. 5 weeks out to sea, we're now 43. We buried our comrades each morning. In our own slime, we were lost in a time of endless night without dawning. Oh, I wish I was back home in Derry. Oh, I wish I was back home in Derry. Van Diemen's Land is no place for a man to live out his whole life in slavery. The climate is raw and the gun makes the law. Neither wind nor rain care for bravery. 20 years have gone by, I've ended my bond. My comrades' ghosts walk behind me. A rebel I came, and I'm still the same. On a cold winter's night you will find me. Oh, I wish I was back home in Derry. Oh, I wish I was back home in Derry. Yep, heard it from that guy. I cut out one of the verses, but whatever. Yeah, so it's about a guy who, the British for years, when they would arrest Irish people, would send them to Australia. Here you go, off you go. Say goodbye to your family. Peace. You know, and so Fields of Athenry is another song about people being deported, transported, they would say. Van Diemen's Land is Australia, or Tasmania, maybe, one or the other. And Black Velvet Band's another song about being transported to... yeah, it's kind of mean, you know, but you get a free life in Australia. So, yeah, and so that's part of what sessions are really cool about, is that, like, that guy just sang that song, and I'm just going, like, it's an amazing song, you know? And I'm just, like, writing it down. I'm like, in my hotel that night, like, okay, I remember this part, and I remember this part. I'm, like, Googling it, you know? Read the whole background of the song after I find it, you know? And, you know, people join in on the chorus. It's just haunting. You know, there's just silence as one guy is just singing. And then just on the chorus, everyone just goes, oh, I wish I was back home in Derry. You know? Chills. You know? And so O'Donoghue's, as it turned out, is the place the Dubliners are from. And I didn't even know it. I was just walking. I was at St. Stephen's Green. It's a big public park. It's like Golden Gate Park, except without, you know, heroin needles lying everywhere. It was a public park, a private park, rather. Only people who lived on the square around St. Stephen's Green could go into it. There's a lake and swans and stuff like that. And Guinness, the guy who made Guinness beer, bought it off the people who lived on the square, and he opened it up for the people of Ireland. If you think the guy was popular for making beer, this dude was really popular. Among other things, he bought St. Stephen's Green and opened up, like, imagine Golden Gate Park just being closed to the public. The only way you can go to Golden Gate Park is if you live on Golden Gate Park and you were given a key. And this dude's like, I'm just going to buy and just open it up to everyone. They love the dude. He made Guinness, part 2. Part 3, he built an aqueduct. So Molly Malone died of a fever. Why? Because she had probably drank bad water. A lot of people in Ireland, especially Dublin, died from contaminated water. And he built an aqueduct from Glenelloe, which is County Wicklow, I think, like, I don't know, 30, 40 miles away. He brought fresh water into Dublin so that people wouldn't die of disease. And so that really endeared him to the Irish people. On top of that, he built the bridge in Vancouver, you know, British Columbia, somehow. I don't know how that happened. but it's like the Guinness Bridge, which crosses the strait. It's like the Golden Gate Bridge in Vancouver was Guinness. And he had like 20-something kids. I don't know. And so, like, you know, the ads for Guinness are like, Guinness is good for your health. And he's like, look at me, I've got 29 kids. I don't know how many. And so everyone's like, yeah, it must be good for your health. Like, look at that. So, dude's absolutely beloved character. And, you know, they like his beer too. So, the Guinness Aqueduct, yeah, really. I mean, he did it to bring clean water in for the brewery, but he made it available to everybody in Dublin. So, cool dude. The Guinness Brewery you can tour, the Jameson Brewery, Distillery you can tour. There's a lot of cool places in Dublin, but I just stumbled into this place. I was at St. Stephen's Green, and I'm like, oh look, I hear Irish music. Or actually, no, I was there before the session started, but I'm like, look, a traditional pub. I'm gonna wander in and have a pint. And I walk in and I see this. This is O'Donoghue's, and I'm like, those are the Dubliners. And so I asked the bartender, I'm like, hey, why do you have so much like memorabilia from the Dubliners? He's like, oh, this is where they started. That corner right there, where those guys, you know, are playing right here. That's the Dubliners were just a pickup band. They would just go there on, you know, Tuesday nights or whatever, and they just play together, and everyone thought they sounded pretty good, and yeah, and that's where it began. They were just random people just playing together. Some of them knew each other, you know, and whatever, but you know, they're all just musicians in the Dublin area. They just played O'Donoghue's, and you got Luke Kelly there. He's an amazing singer. Ronnie Drew, Michael Sheehan. Can't see the other guys too well. Absolutely fantastic musicians, and yeah, they were just a session group, you know. So Barney McKenna is the great mandolin player, and so yeah, here's another bar, the Temple Bar. It's the most famous bar in all of Ireland. I would avoid it. Like the whole Temple Bar area is just this giant tourist trap area, and all the music is like I don't know, Celtic fusion kind of stuff. Yeah. I don't know. So yeah, don't go there. So anyway, on my way back from so yeah, I was talking a bit about Irish culture. So Irish people love crack. You know, and you're like, what? They love crack? Yeah. So that's a Gaelic word. It's not, you know, crack cocaine. They love a good crack. And if you're like, wait, that doesn't look like crack, just be aware that Gaelic looks nothing like how it's pronounced. It looks nothing like how it's pronounced. If you try pronouncing a Gaelic word, you will get it wrong. It's just, you know, like add letters that aren't there, subtract letters that are there. Let's see, the Bodrain, you know, you'd think it's pronounced Bodrain, right? Bodrain? No, Boron. It's the Boron, you know, and these are not the Julian pipes, it's Uillin, right? And have you guys ever seen this word before? Gale, right? Ever seen that before? It's a British way of saying jail. Gaoler, right? It's pronounced Gleal. I asked that guy that. We were passing by a trolley, a Trali. There's a song called the Tralee Gale. And I'm like, how is that pronounced? He's like, Gleal. I'm like, oh. I wouldn't have known there was a missing L in there somewhere. So, yeah, this is me on the train, right? This isn't the guy that was sitting on the old woman. This is another old guy that I had a good conversation with. And he was coming back from Killarney, as I was, back to Dublin. And no, he wasn't going all the way back to Dublin. He transferred halfway off. It doesn't matter. So he's like, you know, what are you here in Ireland from? I'm here to go to the pubs and listen to trad music for an entire week. He's like, that's really cool. Hey, by the way, I play the tin whistle. I'm like, what? He like pulls out a tin whistle. Like, this is amazing, you know? Like, tell me about playing in a session. He's like, all right, you know, and he tells me the story of the Phantom Fiddler, you know. I'm like, what? The Phantom Fiddler? And he's like, yeah, you know, there's a session, and I'm pretty sure this guy actually does not know how to play the fiddle. I'm like, what? Huh? How do you play in a session if you don't know how to play the fiddle? He's like, he's playing, but the bow isn't contacting the strings. He's air playing. So his fingers are going like this. It looks like he's like, you know, really tearing it up. But there's no sound coming out. But you couldn't tell because there's like 13 people in the session. So he would just play along when everyone else is playing, and nobody knew that he actually wasn't playing anything. So I called him the Phantom Fiddler. I'm like, oh, that's amazing, you know. And then this woman here was married to an incredibly racist Irish dude. And that was cool because he was like this blue-collar worker this woman came by wearing like a checkered, the PLO scarf, you know, kind of thing. And the keffiyeh, I think it's called. And he's like, oh, did you see that? Did you see that? I'm like, what? He's like, did you see it? I'm like, the woman that just walked by? Like, yeah. He's like, did you see what she was wearing? And I'm like, yeah. And the woman's like, don't worry about him. He's just totally racist. You know, because he was like, she's going to blow up the train. I'm like, I don't think so, dude. Like, come on. You know, and his wife's like, don't listen to him. He's just super racist, you know. And he's married to a black woman, which is the best part, you know. And so he would bust out these beers, you know, and you can drink on the trains because why not? And people just, you don't have a beer, boom, you know, and you drink and you talk and you have a good time, and that's just on the train, not even in the pubs, you know. And so at some point they all started telling jokes, you know, like this guy told a joke and the racist dude told a joke and she told a joke, and I'm like, I guess it's my turn to tell a joke. And so I'm like, I start off by saying, all right, you know, this is, sorry, I know you guys have been having fun, but I need to tell you a very, very serious story. You know, the Irish Famine was a very sad time for Ireland, and all of them get very quiet and, you know, very respectful. You know, my family was here in the famine, and they had to really scrape and save to get enough money for a third class boat ticket. You know, and they're like, oh yeah, we know what that's like, and you're starving, but you have to save up money. It was very tough, you know, and but they made it, you know, and they came to America, and they arrived in New York, and they stepped off the dock, and they saw a couple people in scuba gear, you know, that were diving in the harbor, and one of my ancestors said to the other, "Oh, I didn't know you could swim it." And all of a sudden they realized that I was telling a joke, and laughed outrageously. And then the next one took a turn telling a joke and stuff like that. And yeah, so that's just, you know, it's just a good time, you know. And yeah, so tunes are just music, songs you sing, right? Tunes can be played fast, they can be played slow. Fast is often dance music. If you're listening to Irish session music and your feet aren't tapping and you're not bobbing your head, like yeah, here, let me play one for you. I'm gonna have to pause this recording. If you're at home, watch. I don't want to get copyright stricken, so I'm going to pause the recording right now so I don't get another copyright violation. It's my sea shanty talk got all sorts of violations, even though it's fair use YouTube. Let's fire this up. Recording is stopped. All right, so this is a reel called Bonnabon. It's a tune and it's a song, and if you read the lyrics to it, it is about a man who is out hunting, and he mistakes his girlfriend for a swan, and he shoots her. Okay, and so if you listen to the second one, it's a very slow, contemplative piece about a guy who shot his girlfriend. If you listen to this one, it is happy and upbeat and very catchy. So see if you can find yourself tapping your feet and bobbing your head to it. I'm going to have to switch the audio source over here. Do I make money off YouTube? No, definitely not. But it bugs me to have for somebody else to make money off of me. You know what I mean? Because if they demonetize me, it means they get the advertising money. I'm like, hell no, cutting it out. You don't get to make money off my lectures. Come on. All right, so let me know if you guys can hear this, or if you can't hear it, I guess. Ready? This is in Dublin, by the way. This is in Gus O'Connor's pub. So that was the third repeat of Malibon. A part, B part, A part, B part, A part, B part. Each part is played twice, and now that's the third run through. So watch. Now she starts a new song. Everyone listens. Did you guys see that? So they finish the third repeat. Now the second playthrough, she was listening. Now she's going to join in. This guy's still listening. This guy joined it at some point. Now he's going to join in. Repeat. Never play it the same way twice. See, somebody just shouted. Those 3 repeats. Now the next song starts. Okay. Alright, so for those of you at home, watch this. This is actually an Irish music school, basically. And so these people are all like really good musicians. But what you saw there, for those of you at home, they played Malibon, A part, B part, B part, A part, A part, B part, B part, A part, A part, B part, B part. And they moved into the next song. Which I can't remember the name of off the top of my head. And when they move into the next song, you see people listen. Like the fiddler at first was just kind of like picking some notes, and then she like kind of joined in with more confidence. And then you see one at a time, more and more of the musicians come in. And then on the third repeat, they'll cut out for a second to just make it really dramatic with just the flute player playing by herself. And then they come back in. You hear people in the audience hollering and stuff like that, getting pumped up for it. So there's that. And then there is Malibon by Alison Krauss, which is, I'm going to have to pause the recording again. It is slow and contemplative and has lyrics. It's a completely different recording. It's a gun safety thing. And here's the first one if you want to watch that. Yeah, so, okay, start recording. Switch the
How
screen.
come we're not recording?
So I don't get a copyright strike.
Copyright.
YouTube doesn't like people playing songs. All right. Okay, and recording again. So the Alison Krauss version is very slow, contemplative. The upbeat version sounds completely different. It's maybe even a completely different song. But Paddy Ryan's Dream can be played quickly or slowly. It sounds beautiful and evocative when played slowly. Played quickly, you just feel like dancing and stuff like that. Paddy Ryan's Dream is about a true story, perhaps not, doesn't really matter, about a man who went to Dublin to seek his fortune. And when he was there, he had a dream of his tree at his house back home. And a voice said to him, "Go back home, that is where your treasure is, not here in Dublin." And so he goes back home and is happy there for a while. Then, on a hunch, digs up underneath the tree and actually finds gold. So, you know, it was actually literal treasure, not just the friends you made along the way. So, Tamlin is another gorgeous song. Rocky Road to Dublin is probably my most played Irish song ever. It's a slip jig. It's the 9/8 time. O'Neill's March. I play that when I'm going off to do SCA fighting.
Why do you have so many copies of the thing?
I put them on here so that you guys can see how different they are. Right? Star of Munster, if I play that, you'll see one person's playing, and you see the violinist is droning for a while, and then she comes in. It's very common for people to play a drone. You just play a long note in the key, and just will add some depth and texture to it, and then after you're ready to come in, then you come in on it. So the second one here is in Alaska, in a town of 20 people in the middle of nowhere in Alaska. They're playing Star of Munster, and this one is a live Skype session of Star of Munster. All three of these have the O'Neill's March. The O'Neill's March was a battle song the O'Neills would play when going off to war.
Very people.
Maybe, or to just fire the people off. It goes da 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 da, and it repeats. That's it. And bagpipe. Just play that.
In the past, they would scare people by playing the bagpipes because nobody else in the world has heard of bagpipes. It's like a large screeching noise.
The Irish actually had even bigger pipes than back then, and then they combine it with other songs too. So Donald Mcgillivray is a fake trad song that was invented in the 1800s. So technically, it's a trad song by now, as a Scottish song, and they tack on O'Neill's March at the end of it to make it cool and exciting. O'Neill's Cavalcade is O'Neill's March mixed with the Trolley Gleal, as I learned how to say. And so it cuts back and forth between the two songs. It sounds really good. Rocky Road to Dublin is amazing. One's an a cappella version, the other is, I think, the Dubliners. Farewell to Erin is a reel that has 4 parts to it, or more. So it goes AABB, AACC, AADD, and then repeats. And so it's quite a lengthy song. Somebody asks, how long do these songs take to play? It's about a minute. If you play it fast, you can go through it in a minute, maybe 2 minutes, depends, somewhere in there. Farewell to Erin's around 5 to 6 to go through the whole thing because there's 4 parts to it. Tamlin, this is a version by Katie Adelson, and so she has a little backing track, and she's really rocks it on this. And White Petticoat's a jig. A jig is a song played in 3/4 time, kind of. So so the form of an Irish tune, typically you go AABB, AABB, and you repeat that 3 times. That's like 80% of all session tunes have this format. You play a motif, you repeat the motif. You play the second part, repeat it. Play the first part, repeat it. Play the second part, repeat it. Then you go through the whole song again. And you do the whole song 3 times. But Farewell to Erin has a much longer format to it. There's a lot of different kinds of songs. Reels are 4/4 time. Hornpipes are 4/4 with accented first and third beats to give it kind of a swing feel to it. Jigs are in 3/4 or 6/8 time. Slip jigs are in 9/8 time, and they have accents on 5 of the 9 notes. Would be like Rocky Road to Dublin. And the final thing that I wanted to talk about today, and then after we're done, I'll play some of these tunes for you guys, or you can listen to them on your own when we're not recording anymore. Is the notion of ornamentation or embellishment? It's a different notion than ornamentation in like Western classical music. Oftentimes the embellishments are almost required. Like if you just play the flat notes in an Irish song, da 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 da, it sounds kind of boring, and so it's almost mandatory you learn how to do rolls where you go up a note, down a note, back to the note really fast, like, and it adds like a kind of thing to it. A bow triplet where you go, instead of bow, you go bo-da-do, and adds like a rhythm to it. Slurs where you mix notes together. You can dot notes, you can hold notes for an extra half length to accent them and make it sound musically interesting. You can go up a fifth, that's pretty common. If you're on a violin, you just play the same tune, up a string. Now you did a key shift and it sounds very cool and exciting. The tunes are fixed, but there's also I should mention here, there's a lot of variations. Like if you try finding sheet music for trad music, you're going to be very confused because there's like 20 versions of every song. And so, basically at a session they'll play it a certain way, and so you have to listen, like, oh, that's how they play it. And then you learn their way of doing it. But basically, even though you played the same melody every time, you ornament it different every time through. every time through, you're going to be adding notes on top, down below in the same key. You're going to be adding rolls and cuts, and and to do that, everybody's doing it. So they're all in the same key, so it all sounds good together. But it just makes it very dynamic and very interesting to listen to, and it's a very cool experience to just sit there and listen to trad music being played like that. And it adds rhythm too, like when you go like that kind of, like you do a cut. It adds kind of a rhythm on top of the rhythm of the song. And also there's regional differences in how people play. Like Donegal fiddling tries to play every note separately. So Donegal fiddlers have a unique kind of sound to them, versus other people that tend to slur notes together. Like you do a slur and a triplet, and a slur and a triplet, that kind of stuff. There's regional variations in it. This is my favorite set ever. So if you guys are going to listen to any of them, that's the one right there. You can search for it on YouTube, or I guess I'll pull it up here. I'll just put it on Discord if you guys want to listen to it. Yeah. But which one do you know, Reed? Irish Washerwoman's famous. Not my favorite song. It's pretty easy to play though, and so typically when you have people going at it with Irish Washerwoman, they try to race each other and try and play it faster and faster. Drowsy Maggie is probably the top session tune around there. Maybe Pigeon on the Gate, something like that. The one with the tree. Oh, the Malone. Yeah. Irish songs they usually encompass three main topics: booze, women, and how bad England is. So these are the three big topics of Irish songs. For example, Whiskey in the Jar is about a man, like a highwayman, who's robbing a British constable. And the song's called Whiskey in the Jar. It's not really about whiskey too much, but I guess it talks about his love for whiskey. Some people like battles and things like that. I like whiskey and courting pretty women in the morning, so early the song goes. So you got your alcohol, you got your woman, you got your England bad. Whiskey in the Jar, classic song as a result. Hits all three of the high notes of Irish music. Current events also. So Irish people will make tunes and songs about what's going on in the world in World War II. There were songs about World War II. And McAlpine's Fusiliers is about people working in England for McAlpine. Now Batty treated Paddy, the Irishman. There's the Louse House of Kilkenny, which is a Yelp review of a very cheap hotel in Kilkenny. 0 stars, let's put it that way. It's called the Louse House because of all the fleas, and when they put out the light, the fleas attack him. It's a great song. Lark in the Morning is about a woman who loves a plowboy. Finnegan's Wake is about a guy who drinks too much and dies, but a fight breaks out at his wake. Some women are fighting over him, so he got that too. And then somebody throws some porter in it, or whiskey, and it falls over him. Rather, it's whiskey, because whiskey is the breath of life. That's what it means, the breath of life. And so it falls over when he comes back to life, and he's just hung over. He's like, "What the heck's going on? You think I'm dead?" Rebel songs are also a huge part of Irish music. That also ties in with England bad. So rebel songs are about how bad the British are, basically, and about Irish independence and things like that. Come At You Black and Tans, famous song. The Black and Tans were the English constabulary force, kind of military force, that were put into Ireland to occupy it really after the Easter Rising, to try and really suppress the Irish independence movement. And that brought out a huge amount of resentment from the Irish people, who tend to have a bit of an independent streak as it is, and you try repressing them more and it gets worse, or better, as your perspective may be. And so Come Out You Black and Tans, come out and fight me like a man, right, is the song. And show your wife, you won medals down in Flanders, you can tell if you ran away from the IRA and all this kind of stuff. Classic song. There's a lot of rebel songs, right, as well, and they don't sing those in Temple Bar, because Temple Bar is full of British tourists, right? And so when I was talking with the racist dude on the train, I'm like, hey, where can I go to actually hear, like the old tunes, the old songs? He's like, oh, you got to go to this place. And then as we're talking, he's like, so you're Catholic, right? I'm like, no, I'm Protestant. He's like, been talking to a Protestant this whole time. But you were like, you support Irish independence. I'm like, yeah, I think Ireland should be its own country, you know? He's like, but you're Protestant. I'm like, yeah, in America, it's not really a big deal. He's like, I don't know how to make sense of this. I'm like, all right. 1798, United Irishmen Rebellion, Protestants, Catholics came together to fight against the British. It's like that. And he goes, oh, okay. Yeah, I get it now. and by the way, even though this guy was like pretty illiterate, he was a laborer, you know, racist as all hell. They all know their history, right? Like that's something that also, and that's part of the music too, is that, like, you know your history in Ireland. He's like, okay, I know how to understand this now. He's like, but by the way, don't go to that pub that I was going to take you to. The last time a Protestant went in there, they beat him senseless, dumped him out on the street naked, and nobody would help him, because if you helped him, then you'd be helping a Protestant. Nobody wanted to do that. I'm like, word of the wise, thank you. I'm not. I'll just go to Temple Bar. He's like, yeah, that's maybe best. And I got to listen to Celtic fusion music and hang out with Americans. It was cool. I actually mean that seriously. Like, I met Americans there. They were cool. We talked. We had a good time. Like, it was actually, I'm actually not being sarcastic at all. But it was not a place where they played rebel songs, because there were a lot of, like, British tourists there and they don't want to offend them. Right? So, yeah. So here are some really good songs that you might want to listen to. Foggy Dews about the Easter Rising. Whiskey and Joe, we went over. Down by the Glenside, also about the Easter Rising. Tiggin's Wake, it's about, I just told you, a guy who died from drinking too much but came back to life. Whiskey. The Blacksmith is about a man loving a woman. Rising the Mood, also about, I think that's United Irishman Rebellion. Limerick Rake is about a dude who loves women a lot, and it's full of double entendres. And the chorus goes, Agus fagin mi siúd mar atáise, which is Gaelic for, and the less said about that, the better. The less said, the better. So, oh, I am a young fellow who's easy and bold. In Castletown Connors I'm very well known. In Newcastle West I spent many a night with Kitty and Judy and Mary. Me father rebuked me for being such a rake and spending my time in such frolicsome ways. But I ne'er could forget the sweet natures of Jane. Agus fagad mead siúd mar atáise. If I chance were to go to the town of Ratkill, all the girls all around me would gather in the square, and some offer me potting and others sweet cakes to treats me unknown to their parents. There's Petty and Jane from the town of Uree, and Biddy from Bruffin, we're all on a spree. Such a coman of locks as there was about me. Agus fagad mead siúd mar atáise. And it goes on to talk about all the women he loved, and all the kids he fathered, and all these women. And at the end, they would all gather at his wake and cry for the soul of their father. It's quite an amusing song. Last House of Kilkenny is a 0-star Yelp review. There's also Scottish music, which is related but different. It's pretty good as well. Here in Fresno, there's a few opportunities if you want to hear session music. This Facebook group here has... did I go to kiss the Blarney Stone? No, I did not care about kissing the Blarney Stone. I have enough Blarney as it is. I don't need any more, thank you. I'm literally paid to talk nonstop for hours at a time. I'm good. So Irish music in Fresno is the local session, and it's run by a Fresno State professor named Larry Cusick. And you can click there and find out about it. They used to play at Grog's, and it was pre-COVID. Le Boulangerie and Grog's Pub. Grog's Pub is the last Wednesday of the month, and Le Boulangerie is the second Sunday. So, yeah, go for it. And so whenever that ends, you should be able to watch them. I've met other people that play at Grog's Pub as well. It's an Irish, down the street from Willow International. And then I also play Irish music. Sometimes I also sing sea shanties, and I don't do it like in a pub or something like that, because I'm not good enough. As they told me, without telling me, they told me, you're not good enough. But I do SCA, and so SCA is a historical reenactment thing. Do I have a picture of it? Yeah, there we go. That's the dance at the SCA. Not a lot of people there. There's 1,000 people at this event, by the way, that I go to. It's in October. If you want to go, I'll post the information. It's 1,000 people all into this kind of nerdy stuff. It's amazing. Yes, girl.
For some reason, the phone just buzzed. For some reason.
I don't know, girl. It's probably somebody just texted. And so this is a dance, and so I think they were playing Korbushka, the Tetris theme. And so you learn dances and things like that. That's Ada when she was a baby, right there. And so I play music. I bring my fiddle, and we sit around a campfire, and we drink whiskey. If you guys aren't 21, you can drink, I don't know, apple juice or something like that. And we sit around a campfire and we drink and we sing and play music and try to recreate that feeling of like how it used to be, you know? Because like back in the day, that's how people entertained each other. They would sing and they would dance and they would eat and drink and when you finish, you just feel like really good. Like you just feel like really happy. Like, wow, that was just a really good time, you know? And, you know, it might be the alcohol, but I don't think so. I think it's just that feeling of like socializing with people, which we don't do these days, like especially now with the pandemic where you guys are, you know, maybe on the other side of the country from me. But, yeah, just afterwards, you know, I play Irish music and do sea shanties, and it's fun. It's a lot of fun for me, and I don't know if it's fun for the other people, because apparently when I drink enough, I just start telling people to start singing. Like, sing! You know, drunken sailor, sing! Apparently, I don't know. I don't remember that. They could just be exaggerating, but apparently I'm very empathetic about people joining in and singing when we're doing sea shanties and stuff. I print out copies of the lyrics and hand them out to people, so they don't have any excuse not to sing along. Are you Irish, Professor? I am 3/8 Irish. My last name's Kearney. So I am 3/8 Irish. So I don't know if that counts enough or not enough, but either way. So, yeah. And so if you guys are interested in that, I'll post information. The event's in October, outside of Bakersfield. There's a lake there, and there's 1,000 people all camping, all doing historical nerdy stuff. There's fighting. If you like sword fighting, you can learn to sword fight if you want. Arts and crafts. My wife sews, or not, she doesn't sew, she like braids kumihimo or something like that, and there's music events, and I don't know, it's just a really good time. You just go there for the weekend and just, you know, hang out with friends and stuff. So I'll post the information on that if you're interested. It's October, later in the year. So that's it for my talk. I think I probably over prepared for this. I got a lot of music ready for you guys. But like this guy said here, he said when Irish music gets into your blood, you know, you just want to move and dance and things like that. So, yeah, it's really cool. Let me show you one more thing before we go. Let me show you. Oh, that's nice. Where is that? I don't know. Why is it playing a? Yeah, okay. Where am I? It's at O'Donoghue's Pub. There's a crashed freighter ship. So this is that island I was telling you about. That was all rock, and they split the rock and built the soil and reclaimed it. That all used to be rock, just a solid rock, and they split it, and they put down seaweed, and they dredged the harbor and put in soil and turned it into cultivatable farmland over centuries. And it only stopped about 50 years ago because the government wanted to preserve the environment for whatever was left. Yeah, so just like walking around Ireland, you know, it's just like, it's nice. Cliffs of Moher, right? If you guys have ever seen that before, Cliffs of Moher, it's pretty beautiful. I don't know what that is. Not a water fountain. And so, yeah, it's pretty nice. It's pretty nice. I then made the bad mistake. After having hiked 20 miles already that day, I decided to hike along the cliff trail. And so the cliff trail goes along the very cliff of this 1,000-foot high cliff. It's beautiful. Incredibly dangerous. Beautiful. Incredibly dangerous. There's no railing, right? The Irish don't believe in personal liability laws. And so the warning that I should have taken to heart was that they had a sign up saying, keep an eye on your children and pets. Not don't take them, just keep an eye on them. Should have been my warning. It's an incredibly dangerous hike. Apparently, I just read a news story. Extreme danger. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. They actually fixed it, apparently. A week before I was there, as I'm talking to my dad on the phone, the trail runs along the cliff, right? And sometimes it's like right there. The cliff's like right there. My dad's like, oh yeah, 2 tourists just died last week falling in on the hike you're on. I'm like, cool, good to know. And the trail runs right along the edge there. And there are two parts where the trail had fallen into the ocean. Beautiful. Very dangerous. The trail had fallen into the ocean. And so I literally had to jump over the Atlantic Ocean to continue. So right here you can see the trail. Left side, 1,000-foot drop. Right side, drop into barbed wire. And the trail is like this. And there's a 20-mile-an-hour wind blowing you like this. And I've already hiked about 20 miles a day, and my legs are dead. And I'm just like walking with my hands out like this, like keeping balance. And you can see the trail runs right along that cliff face there. And let's see if there's a shot of where the trail's out. Yeah, it's just like that. It's just like, bloop, there's death right there. Just right there. Yeah, there it is. So you can't really see it from here, but right there the trail had washed out. And so I had to jump over it. So I had to jump over the Atlantic Ocean. It's kind of cool. I spent like 5 minutes just staring at that jump, looking down at the ocean down below, testing it with my feet. Like, all right, I can do this. And then I hop over, And then I get to another one, and I'm like, God damn it. And so for that one, I mantled, like in Assassin's Creed, mantling. And so when I mantle, I put my hand on the cliff, and there's barbed wire beneath it, and I slash my hands open. And if I had just flinched back like that, I would have gone straight into the ocean and died. But instead, I just accepted it, mantled over, and then started cursing vociferously afterwards. So, yeah, but apparently it's gone better. Warning. Unstable cliff edge. Please return to the official path. Thought I was on the official path. Then it gets nicer. As you hike along, it gets flatter and flatter, and it's not a big deal after that. It was raining on me. I got back to the hotel that night, and I was dead. I had hiked 27 miles that day, and I couldn't even. I tried going to the pub, and my legs collapsed out from under me. I'm like, all right, I'm not going to the pub tonight. But yeah, Ireland is just a place of incredible natural beauty. There you go. Here's the warning: always supervise children, especially near the cliff edges. Oh, so keep an eye on them when they have to jump over the Atlantic Ocean, right? Kills me. And so, yeah, let's see. This is on the island that I was telling you about. You can hear the wind is on the cliff hike. So this is a bird trying to fly forwards in the wind. You just see how strong that wind is. You can also see how close that cliff face is to the trail. Pretty nice, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, I'm the bold and castle time. Yep. And so I was singing and just having a good time. Yeah, it was just an amazing place to visit. Just castles and stuff like that. So that's it for our talk today. I'm going to put the PowerPoint presentation up on Discord, and if you want to click on any of those links, even in town, it's just gorgeous. Highly recommend you guys visit Ireland. It's a great place to visit. People are wonderful. The food's aight. Food's okay. They love curry, but the way they make curry isn't, I don't know. It's just not, it's so watery. Like, I just love a really thick curry. I don't know. So that's it for today, guys. So thank you for coming. Thank you for attending. Make sure you post here. And if you are watching at home, 2-page essay on what you learned today. And I want you to compare and contrast several of those songs, or several of the tunes that I posted that have the same name, and talk about the differences between them. So I posted 3 versions of Star of Munster. Talk about what you hear musically different in each one of them. Okay. That is it for today, guys. Thank you very much for coming out, letting me talk about a topic that I love. Next extra credit workshop, maybe meditation, if you guys are into that stuff. I don't know. We'll see. So that's it for today, though. All right. Thanks a lot. Peace.